Hello, it's 10 a.m. on Friday, October 14th here in Seoul with our mid-morning newscast. I'm Mark Broom. Our top story this morning, the top US diplomat for East Asia has warned that if North Korea's leader attempts a nuclear attack, he would, quote, immediately die. He also hinted Washington could punish Chinese companies helping North Korea's weapons program if Beijing does not take the issue into its own hands. Gonsoa starts us off.
North Korean leader Kim Jong-un would almost certainly be killed himself if he ever used nuclear weapons. Daniel Russell, the U.S. Assistant Secretary of State for East Asia, told reporters that from Kim's perspective, he might have the ability to carry out a nuclear attack, but there's hardly any chance he'd survive the overwhelming military response. He said for that reason, such a tactic cannot be his plan A. Russell also labeled North Korea's claims that it's developing nuclear arms for deterrence absurd and stressed the nuclear program weakens Kim's grip on power rather than making it stronger. These comments reflect Washington's toughest ever North Korea policy and come amid a wave of opinions from U.S. experts and politicians on the need for preemptive strikes on Pyongyang. Russell also sent a message to China calling for the country to get tough on Chinese companies that aid North Korea's nuclear weapons program. He said if Beijing takes investigations and punishments into its own hands, the U.S. won't have to do anything. But if not, Washington has the right to take action under UN Security Council Resolution 2270. Kwon So-ah, ARIRANG News.
Now, North Korea may have sold its fishing rights in the East Sea to Taiwan in a bid to boost governing funds for the Kim Jong-un regime. A source familiar with North Korean affairs says North Korea recently sold its license, and dozens of 300-ton ships from Taiwan have been fishing above the northern limit line, that is the de facto maritime border separating the Koreas. The source said North Korea receives about $1,400 a day for allowing a single Taiwanese vessel to fish within the area. Also, it's known that North Korea is forcing the Taiwanese ships to recruit North Korean crew members and pay them monthly salaries. It's estimated that earnings from the fishing rights sales amount to millions of dollars a year. A South Korean government official says Seoul is working to verify the source's claims. The South Korean government confirmed back in August that the regime also sold fishing rights in the East Sea to China. Samsung Electronics says its decision to ditch the ill-fated Galaxy Note 7 is expected to cost the company roughly $3 billion in lost sales. In a statement, Samsung said it expects the termination to cut fourth quarter earnings by about $2 billion and another $1 billion in the first quarter of next year. Samsung recently revised down its earnings estimate for the third quarter to reflect those losses. The company expects an operating profit of roughly $4.6 billion for the July to September period, and that is down from the estimate of $6.9 billion released just last week. Samsung says it will try and make up for the losses by expanding sales of its flagship Galaxy S7 and S7 Edge models. It will also use it as an opportunity to focus on enhancing product safety through changes in its quality assurance procedures. The United Nations has elected former Portuguese Prime Minister Antonio Guterres as the next Secretary General of the world body. He will succeed South Korea's Ban Ki-moon in January. Park Jong-hong has the details.
The 193-member UN General Assembly has officially and unanimously elected the next chief of the global body. Outgoing Secretary General Ban Ki-moon called Antonio Guterres a wonderful choice who brings deep and solid political experience to the UN. In his acceptance speech, Guterres expressed the need to fight for peace, alluding to the burgeoning threat of terrorism and xenophobia around the world. In particular, he said it's the world's moral duty to help put an end to the suffering in war-ravaged Syria.
I feel a deep solidarity in relation to the Syrian people. And to see the Syrian people suffering so much, it's something that absolutely breaks my heart.
He also highlighted the importance of gender equality in his speech, calling it a priority commitment of the UN to protect and empower women. Guterres had served as a Portuguese prime minister from 1995 to 2002 and as the UN High Commissioner for Refugees for 10 years until last year. He will start his 5-year term on January 1st, 2017. Park Jong-hong, ARIRANG News.
Now to some sad news back here in Korea. 10 people have been killed and 7 injured after a tourist bus burst into flames on the Gyeongbu Expressway on Thursday night. Police in the southeastern city of Ulsan say the bus was carrying 20 people when one of its tires exploded and the bus slammed into a guardrail. The people who survived the inferno were taken to hospital to receive treatment for smoke inhalation and other injuries. The passengers were retirees of Hanwha Chemical Company and their spouses. They were on their way to Ulsan from Daegu Airport after returning from a trip to China. Well, that's where we're going to leave it for now. We'll be back at noon Korea time in a little under 2 hours from now. So until then, goodbye.